Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. I was just trying to get a bit of a sense. I wasn't here for the opening session, but please raise your hands if you're here representing a congregation. Wow. Okay. If you're representing a not-for-profit organization, not a church. Okay. Double dipper. That's better. What about government? We have one state. Your government. Okay. Just trying to get a sense of who's in the room, and so I am going to start today. I work with the Sustainability Institute, and I was kind of commissioned by them to come in and assess what's going on in terms of energy use in Charleston's historic churches. So I did a number of things to understand what was going on in Charleston's historic churches. One of them was a survey interviewing many people in this room. I am an environmental planner and study environmental planning and policy researcher. So one of the things I try to understand is not just buildings, not just communities, not just the environment, but kind of the overlap of all of these things. And then with the congregation and religious institutions, of course, the overlap in terms of mission and these issues as well. So when I started to look at this, what I really started to understand was that Charleston's historic churches are facing a lot of challenges. The congregations themselves are facing challenges, the buildings themselves are facing challenges, and there's a real kind of overlap in terms of how those challenges are going to play themselves out in this city. But that when it comes to kind of sustainability and, since churches don't use a lot of water, when we talk about sustainability in general, we're mostly talking about energy savings. That when it came to preserving churches, that saving energy kind of played on a lot of the different themes around how to save historic churches in general, including preserving the buildings, practice the mission of environmental stewardship, saving money, and saving energy. I can even add into that, one might be also kind of building community, because there's some community building aspects around saving energy that we'll discuss today. So I don't mean to come here and say that energy savings is going to save Charleston's historic churches, but it's an important element. One element, it's also going to be a collaborative element. This isn't a every church for his or herself type of movement. This is something that the people in this room have the power and the willingness, since you're all here, I think, to engage collaboratively. And what I'm going to do today is kind of make the case for energy as part of this larger historic church preservation movement. So just to go through, I don't live in Charleston, so came in, did kind of a rapid recon assessment. I've worked with Sustainability Institute for many years and am familiar with a bit of the lay of the land, but I did do this assessment and have some pictures to sort of get a look at what does this look like, kind of an illustrated glimpse. So we see things like this when we go through. This is more of the challenges. We see kind of windows like this that obviously it was kind of pieced together with some plexiglass, because this church didn't know quite what to do to fix this window, and they weren't allowed to replace the windows. There's some kind of ad hoc measures going on like this. We see doors that are what we might call a little bit drafty. Some kind of opportunities here for some low-cost energy savings practices and things that could be done better to save energy and save money and also increase comfort. And then we have what we can see from this picture is a lot of lighting. There's a lot of lighting going on in Charleston's churches, because that's part of the ambiance, and part of kind of being a church is the use of lighting. And we see that again it's expensive, but there are a lot of energy saving measures to be gleaned from having a lot of indoor lighting. We also see kind of some maintenance issues around. This was from a air conditioning problem that needs to be fixed. We see a lot of kind of mildew issues, different kind of water damage, some aging HVAC systems, and other opportunities where, the churches are aware of these. They're on the list, a long list of things to keep up. But these are some of the issues of what kind of energy use savings and the need for rehabilitation look like, according to the pictures that we gathered. So this brings us to a survey. In August of 2013, and yes, that was just last month, we did with the Sustainability Institute, we did a House of Worship energy survey. It had 3 main sections, and in all we surveyed 14 houses of worship, mostly in the historic area, but also in West Ashley. We worked very hard to get a diverse group of churches and congregations, and we also interviewed local stakeholders to try and get a sense of what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what are the needs, and what would be a strategy forward. So this is the results of this survey are going to be part of a report that is available on the Sustainability Institute, and I'm going to show you a few of the main results. So some of the questions we asked was just some basic unit information. We can see here that in terms of congregation size, which we know is kind of a challenge to many churches in historic Charleston, 50% reported that their congregation size is decreasing, 36% stationary, and 14% increasing. You can see on the right-hand side that there's a very wide range in terms of size and congregation, like square footage and also congregation size. So we have a lot of kind of different types of diversity in the types of buildings and communities that we're working with. We also asked churches as part of the survey to give us their energy bills, and very kindly, many churches did. They shared with us their energy bills so we could try and get a sense of how much energy churches are using. We see that the peak comes in August, and the average cost for a church in Charleston in August is just over $1,000. That's a big chunk of any church's operating budget. We also looked, and this is just represented, these are actual churches, and I don't put the names because that's not appropriate to tell everyone's name, but what I wanted to do is get a baseline first of energy use, and then also of energy cost, and then show you the benchmarks for national averages, which are these blue lines. In the cost, it's a range, and up there on the right-hand side, in terms of energy use, it's more of a straight line. It's 3.4 kilowatt hours per square foot. We can see something here is that in terms of energy cost, that there is one kind of outlier at $3.50 a square foot that's very high, and then more are in the range. But one thing that keeps Charleston's churches in the range are 2 things. One is that energy here is quite cheap compared to the rest of the country, and 2 is that some churches don't have HVAC systems at all. So that again is going to keep their energy use and energy costs low. If you look at the top, you see that there's kind of more churches that are above the national benchmark than below. We also learned from the survey that there are energy saving measures taking place across the city. So who sees it in this picture? Do you see what the energy saving practice is? The light sensor. Do you see it? It's way over there on the right. I don't have it here. Okay. I don't know if I have a thing, but it's way over there on the right. That's a light sensor, which we were really excited. We saw that. We said, hey, look at that! You're already doing it. So that's a motion detector on the outside, so that the light goes on only when there's motion and it's not on all day. We also saw some energy-saving light bulbs. So we see these are small scale. We saw energy-saving light bulbs on this church. Again, we were pretty excited about that. And we saw these kind of improvised, cost-saving measures, little signs telling you turn off the lights, turn off the air conditioning. These are kind of like sensible, sensible cost-saving measures that lots of churches were using. And we saw that people were, in fact, the doors were all closed, so people were paying attention at this particular church. So that's sort of a snapshot quick of what energy use looks like in our sample of Charleston churches. We also asked about capital planning and appetites for debt. There's no sense talking a lot about larger scale renovations if there's no money. So one thing we want to talk about today is in any kind of strategy, there's 3 prongs to the strategy, and one of them is going to be how do you pay for it. So we wanted to get a sense of how energy savings works into your larger capital planning budget, and how are you gonna pay for it? So we asked if you had any plans for energy savings improvements. Overwhelmingly, congregations said yes. And then we're trying to get a sense of if this is based on kind of a return on investment strategy, or what was kind of the driver for this type of investment. And overwhelmingly, churches were saying this idea of return on investment was a very important part of why they would make an energy-saving investment. We also asked about attitudes and trying to get a sense of how energy efficiency kind of played into people's general feelings about their congregation, their church, things that they'd be interested in doing. And overwhelmingly, again, they said that congregations in general will be very willing to make energy efficiency improvements. And then, okay, that's the rosy side of the picture. We'll say, well, why aren't you doing it? What's going on? What are the barriers? Why aren't you out there doing all these things? And we got a wide range of responses. VAR, we want to replace our windows. They won't let us do it. Small size, small budget, money. Let's see. Oh, cost and knowledge. That's sort of, so we see kind of a wide range of things, but we see some themes here. Education, what are our priorities, and a lot of ROI, which is return on investment. So there we are. That is the snapshot of the survey, and I'm going to show you the full results of the survey are going to be available on the Sustainability Institute website, and those are going to be available to everyone. So those will be posted in October. But that's our quick snapshot of what's going on in these 14 churches, at least. But then, how do we move forward? What does this mean? Who cares? Like, that's where we are now. How are we going to envision something to move forward here? I wanted to show you these examples here of a really neat climate justice movement going on in the Southeast. These are examples of 2 different pastors of congregations in the Southeast who are part of this climate justice movement that seems to be picking up speed, especially in particular in the Southeast. And the stories of these gentlemen and their congregations are available in the resource section of the report and on the website too. And might be kind of inspirational to read these and get a sense of why are we doing this? What's the reason? What's the larger picture in terms of why this is important, why this is meaningful, why should we care? And those reports will be available. So I love this stuff. My big giant diagram for how to move forward. So what I came up with based on my background in this area, my interviews with various leaders, was this 3-pillar approach. And it begins with our overarching goal. And again, this is my goal. This is your community. This is your church. This is your city. You can refine this, but this is just a sort of planting a seed here for everyone to think about. Practice environmental stewardship and relieve the financial vulnerability of houses of worship due to rising energy costs. I think that's a noble goal, and it's attainable. And then, how do we get there? So what I'm going to talk about in the remaining couple of minutes are these 3 pillars. First, education and outreach, diverse energy saving solutions, because this is a very diverse community, and pillar 3 is cooperation and facilitation. The theory is that with these actions, that you're going to come up with solutions that meet the needs of the people sitting in this room, that meet the needs of the people that are part of the congregations of this city. And what we want is lower energy use, lower cost, empowered communities, so that we can build more viable congregations downtown. So here we go. We see my nexus again, my bubble nexus. Making the case for energy savings. First pillar, education and outreach. There's a general lack of understanding that kind of emerged from the survey results. We want to do things, but we don't really understand why exactly, except for that it's a good idea, and we don't understand what to do. We had a lot of talk this morning about technical solutions, but those messages and those technical solutions aren't generally very well understood by congregation members, and maybe by congregation leaders too, so there's a real need for outreach. And there are a lot of materials that can be developed. I think a Board of Architectural Review guide and some more work by the architects and the technical people needs to kind of make that information much more available to congregations. The EPA also has an Energy Star guide for congregations. And then the communication of the benefits of why energy savings is important. Comfort, you're going to feel better in your church. You're going to be cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. Cost, economic drivers, such as tourism, weddings, and such, I think are good things to communicate to community members. Well, and this is our shameless self-promotion plug. This is the Sustainability Institute website that Laura Addis put together, and it's excellent. It has resources here at the bottom for cool congregations brought to you by Interfaith Power and Light, the Energy Stars Guide for Congregations, as well as the case study for that climate justice paper that I showed you. And this eventually, by mid-October, will also have the results of the survey and the report that accompanies this talk today. Okay, moving forward, mobilize leaders. We need leadership. Formalize some kind of initiative, and then coordinate and build upon the groups that are already working on this work. Okay, pillar 2, diverse needs call for an array of solutions. There's no kind of one-size-fits-all solution here. But what I see here in Charleston, and I think this is really important, is that there's a lot of technical capacity here. We saw this morning that the leadership, the technical skills are here, but what's lacking is kind of a coordination and a bringing together to get everyone to work together so that it's not every church for his or herself. And I think there are some ways to do that. So I came up with a few ideas that I think would be good ways to empower churches and lower energy bills. First is the do-it-yourself energy savings workshops, which is where you train maintenance staff on how to do things in their churches, and then they can actually teach those to their congregation so that they can go home and teach and do these in their homes as well. These includes things like lighting, door sweeps, HVAC maintenance, wrapping your hot water heater, things like this. And these are low-cost, high-return solutions that a group like Sustainability Institute is very technically adept at conducting those types of trainings. Program 2 is a bigger program. There is a program in Atlanta called Grants to Green that provides energy assessments and matching funds for churches and not-for-profits to engage in deeper dive retrofit work. I think that there's the technical capacity and sort of all the players in place to replicate this type of program in Charleston. $2.5 million have been invested that are allowing the city to recoup $1 million in annual energy savings amongst its buildings. What's missing here is the big funder. This is funded by the Candida Foundation, and they have expressed some interest in scaling up this program, and I think that it would be a good, if you could get the right interest together, that you could make a good case for bringing that program to Charleston. Forward, establishing the priorities. What does the community want? What should you do first? Where do you start? Securing funding, launching some kind of strategic development initiative around these issues, and engaging with key leaders. This is pillar 3, cooperation. Like I said, there's somewhat of a siloed approach that needs to be, the silos need to come down to the ground and speak with each other so that there's much more cooperation. There are a lot of groups listed here, and these groups, it's time to get everyone at the table, just like we are here in this room today, and share ideas, come together, do some grant writing, and this type of thing. Okay. So, how to pay for it. And my friend from the State Energy Office is going to talk on this, and there's a whole session on this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I kind of just throw up some different models here for the do-it-yourself. There's some self-funding. I think churches could pay $100 each to attend a do-it-yourself workshop training. And then we're talking about the bigger kahuna, the grant programs that involves grant writing, government loans, other types of funding mechanisms that are at your fingertips, but again, you need kind of the coalition building to get these off the ground. Whoa, this is too much text. They always tell you never put this much text on a PowerPoint slide. however. I only had one. So, summary of recommendations. Awareness is here and it's growing, but additional outreach is needed to build knowledge amongst congregation and church leaders. Charleston's religious organizations represent a large opportunity for focused energy efficiency programming, and I think that just with this workshop, just with this series of workshops and the mayor's task force, etc., the time is right, and it's time to kind of build on this momentum and take it to the next level. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. You need an array of solutions for different churches, different sizes, different types of budgets, with different needs. And it's time to go out there and shop for grants and money. I mean, and that's what you need a funding stream to pay for this, and they're out there, and we've seen the programs, and they're working in municipalities around the Southeast. So, but you're going to need some kind of collaborative approach to go and get that money. So the power is in your hands. The people in this room are the ones to do it. I wanted to, of course, done many things. This was a huge effort amongst many people that are sitting in this room. The Sustainability Institute folks, David, Larry, Laura, Brian, the city. The South Base organization is out of Atlanta. They were very helpful, and yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm happy after Jennifer speaks to continue the discussion and answer any questions. So thank you all very much.
Hi, I'm Jen Tarasowitz. I'm with the South Carolina Energy Office. I'm within the Budget and Control Board, and if you guys are anything like me, whenever I go to a conference, I start jotting down all these great ideas. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm full of great ideas, I'm going to go talk to this person, I'm going to talk to that person. And then I get back to work, and I'm doing the job of 6 people, and I don't have time to do this or do that. And next thing I know, I'm going home, and my great ideas are kind of like my pile of dishes. I'll do them tomorrow. It starts getting a little bigger. I'm like, when I have time, I don't have a quick 5 minutes to do the dishes. I'll wait for it to get, a lot of time. And next thing I know, it's smelling and gross. I'm like, well, do you think it'll fit in the stove and I can hide it and smell it? And then you just kind of have to dive in, even though it's overwhelming. We have lots of great ideas, and it can be overwhelming. And that's where we at the Energy Office try really hard to help. I know from working with a lot of the towns, there's only one person running the whole town. So I'm assuming with the church, there might be one person running the whole church, as well as 6 other things that they have on their plate. I like, when I'm trying to do something new, to not be overwhelmed, to know what's going on so I don't get taken advantage of, and someone to kind of hold my hand. And so we're trying to hold people's hands. Sometimes that means we refer you to the Sustainability Institute, who can hold your hand really well. And sometimes that means that we can help you and point you in the right direction, or we can bring a group of people together and just kind of introduce ideas. We also offer funding. We used to have a big pile of grant money 2 years ago. It was great. We never had grant money before. We gave it all away. We want more grant money. We don't have grant money right now. We have very small grants. We call them mini grants, but it's still up to $5,000, which can be quite helpful. To me, $5,000 is a lot of money, and it can sometimes put a really big dent in something, especially if you start with lighting, which has a good return on investment when you switch over your lights. So we have the mini grants, and those you have until October 11th to apply for. And with those, we're looking at basically the return on investment, or if it's a really unique idea, or if it's just a standard idea. Nobody ever really thinks to do caulking and weather stripping. They think it's just not something people reviewing grants want to see, and that's something we love, and nobody ever says, we just want to caulk our windows so that the air doesn't come through. We also offer very low interest loans. It's 2% loan, and you don't have to start repaying it until a year after construction completion date. They are available to churches and nonprofits as well as states. It goes up to $500,000 per fiscal year. So sometimes if you have a huge $1 million project, you'll ask for one in March and another one in July, and you've got your 2 fiscal years. But if you have a $20,000 project, and then the idea is you repay it out of your energy savings. So in order to qualify for the loan, you do have to show your energy savings, what you plan to do. We have allowed with the loans, a lot of people will put in lighting that has, if you switch from, for example, if you have a lot of T12s and you're switching to T8s, just that little bit of energy savings per light bulb adds up really quick over the time. So you have a really huge return on investment. They'll also put in, we need a big plan for the church. We need to just spend $2,000 on the plan. So not only can you, if your return on investment for your energy measures are high enough, you can also put in a little bit for training. So that's where the do-it-yourself workshop could be thrown into this loan program. And then we also just try to hold hands and get people through. That's just my little spin on it. Mostly Christine's going to answer a lot of questions. If you have questions for me, I can. But just think of the South Carolina Energy Office. We're located all the way in Columbia, and we are within the Budget and Control Board. And I have a business card, and I have cute little tips as to how you can save energy. But I think the main thing is just, if you have great ideas and you're ready to run with them, great, go forth. If you've got great ideas and you're like, this is a little overwhelming, just think of us, or there's many groups that will help hold your hand and kind of see how we can help. Sometimes we can't, but we try real hard.